Do we have the space to talk about space?
What about space? Does it involve demons?
In a sense, because it involves the Chinese Communist Party.
Oh.
So basically, China has announced that on their space station, they had successfully completed a rice harvest. They took rice grains and they grew them and then produced more grains. So it's like technically that they have like completed a harvest, which means, right? And as we know from the movie The Martian, if you have grown crops somewhere, you've successfully colonized that place.
Well, where was this? Was it like just
They
floating?
colonized
in
their
orbit.
own space station?
Well,
Or they colonized all of the vacuum of space?
They colonized all of the vacuum of space.
Oh, wow. Tonight the sky is red.
Right. I mean, firstly, I kind of have my doubts that even if they say they did a successful harvest, that they really did. Like,
Well,
I'm not even sure
also,
that's the whole story.
what could that mean? Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, just also if you look at like the number of scientific announcements that have happened in China where it turned out later that it was falsified, I would say like there's a high chance of this just being fake or somewhere on the spectrum of truth to fake that's closer to fake. And then, but on top of that, like it would be scary if there's some kind of excuse that like, oh, well, we have rights to this place because we've grown crops here.
I mean, is the Martian thing true?
Well, no, that's a fictional movie, Shelley.
No, I meant like the whole thing about if you've grown crops somewhere, you've colonized it.
Well, it's only true if the majority of countries recognize that's true.
Also, the vacuum of space is a different thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure China will try to do it on the moon as well and make every effort to claim specific territory on the moon. And so I think this is just like one.
Well, I mean, the moon's been part of Chinese territory since ancient times.
Right. But it's like the excuse that, oh, well, Chinese fishermen used shoals and islands in the South China Sea historically. And therefore, this territory has belonged to China since ancient times. And even though a lot of the world is like, well, that's stupid, there are still many countries that are willing to, especially countries that don't have an interest in the South China Sea, are willing to recognize China's claims.
The Central African Republic's like, sure, why not?
Well, yeah, but even if many countries don't recognize the claims, just like China making that claim is kind of like what happens next after China makes the claim? Well, then they have a justification to start building it up. They have a justification to militarize.
And then it becomes like, well, okay, they're making this claim. What are you going to do to stop them? And it's like,
right,
nothing.
Because like, oh, we don't want to stop China's scientific research into growing crops.
Or even with like the South China Sea, it's like, well, we're not going to start a war. Like, it's bad that you built these islands, but we're not going to start a war over it. Just don't militarize them.
And then Xi Jinping was like, I pinky swear in the Oval Office. And then they did militarize.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I would say that it's just one very small initial step towards China's ultimate goal, which I think is, it's not too much of an exaggeration to say space dominance. Obviously, we're not talking about all of outer space, but we are talking about a kind of space dominance as it applies to warfare. So you have space dominance in Earth orbit, which involves many military applications from spying to launching and directing missiles to interrupting other countries' communications and send them back 100 years in terms of their communications technology. So that's...
Are we going to start having to use telegraphs again?
Well, I mean, you can use anything that's, over wires, right? That won't be affected by space. But like, yeah, I mean, the telephone technology, wire-to-wire stuff was around 100 years ago, but not cell phone technology, which relies on satellite relays, right? So the whole point is that China is taking little baby steps to control more and more of space, and most of that space is, Earth orbit. I would say the moon is part of that too, because there are many potential military applications of the moon. For example, launching craft and building crafts because of the low gravity environment, and potential minerals there, although I don't know the mineral content of the moon. But
I mean, Chang'e has been there for thousands of years.
That's
so
right, yeah.
Since ancient times.
I mean, it actually is an interesting idea, because if China does become the dominant power on Earth and in space, that means they're probably going to be the ones to make first contact.
With the space demons.
With the space demons, and that could go poorly.
I mean, it never goes well, as we know from Babylon 5.
No. Yes, like that show that you love.
That's right. Like the show I love. But, I mean, recently a U.S. general warned that China is the biggest threat in space.
That's only because he couldn't talk about the aliens.
Oh.
Yeah, or the Decepticons.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's Decepticons. On the moon.
On the moon.
Yeah.
But also, I think the U.S. is really concerned about that. Recently, the United Arab Emirates, which is the country that for Abu Dhabi and Dubai are part of that sort of country of city-states, the UAE. The UAE wanted to add a craft to China's next lunar landing device. But because that craft built by the UAE has some American components, the U.S. has basically said, oh, well, you can't work with China on any space launch because of this, it's like a 1976 arms law that prevents that. So basically, there's already like this fight where like China's launching spacecraft and other countries want to work with China to like tack on to their launches, because not very many countries have launch capabilities, right? It's only a few countries plus a few private companies. And so this is part of like this battle, right? Where the U.S. is trying to enforce as much as it can its laws to stop any country from working with China's space program, because of course that helps fund China's space program, and it helps legitimize China's space program,
which is run by China's military.
It is
the Communist Party's military, rather. So
yeah. So I mean, I think that there's that battle we're seeing played out in a lot of different respects.
This is not how I expected the Space Wars to go.
How did you expect it? Pew, 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 pew.
Something like that.
There's no sound in space.
Yeah. That's my biggest problem with Star Wars. But anyway, that was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So maybe they had sound in that space.
It's a fair point.
Yeah.
It's a fair point. How do some podcasts end? Not with a bang, but with a whimper.